What's up? What's up? What's up?
What do you call them?
I can't do this anymore. Left my past all on the floor. I've been trying to keep it moving. Now we going north, going up 2, 3, up 2, 3. Got this joy inside of me because I can't do this anymore. Left my past all on the floor. I've been trying to keep it moving. Now we going north, going up 2, 3, up 2, 3. Got this joy inside of me because I got the key. We've been really moving places, always on the low. I was shining in the tunnel cause I got the glow. People really hating and it really start to show, yeah. We gon' level up again cause that's just how we roll, yeah. Came in with the sauce, yeah. Learned out from the boss, yeah. I've been learning lessons from the struggles and the losses. Praying for communion for the races since we lost it. I done had enough of it for all the pain and cost anymore. Left my past all on the floor. I've been trying to keep it moving. Now we going north, going up 2, 3, up 2, 3. Got this joy inside of me.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Good evening, everybody. So, I've been wanting to do this since I saw parts of the interview. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant and her appearance on not only Cam Newton's show, but also Nick Cannon's show. I have seen a lot of reviews and people responding. And what majority of people are responding to seems to be just clips, just a segment of her appearance. And all but one person seemed to be giving her a lot of props. Everybody seems to agree with her. People are saying that Cam Newton is low functioning, has a low value. He can't comprehend what she's saying, and just giving her lots of props and saying these are things that needed to be said. I've seen her on Nick Cannon's show first. That was the only reason why I went to Cam Newton's, because it was her. When I seen her on Nick Cannon's show, I thought initially that she did a great job. I felt that Nick Cannon was trying to skirt around the issues. He couldn't handle what she was saying because Nick's style is to kind of joke around with things, and it appears once he's kind of cornered. So I was like, okay, she did a very good job. I felt like she was saying what needed to be said. But then once I saw her on Cam's show, which I did not, I will admit, I did not watch the entire episode. I was too frustrated. I watched about an hour and 12 minutes or an hour and a half. I was frustrated because of her, the way she was behaving. Okay, she was introduced as a psychology expert. I have no idea what that means. What does it take to be an expert? So what I did was I also went back to some other episodes of Nick Cannon's specifically because she's a psychology expert. But also, let's see what else she is. She is a life coach. She's a co-producer of the MTV reality show. She's a community activist. And she says she's a marriage and family child therapist. I, being a psychotherapist myself, looked at this whole situation and conversation a little bit differently. I think a lot differently than a lot of people did. So on Nick Cannon's show, this is who I want to compare with. I want to compare with Iyanla Van Zandt, and Iyanla's credentials are an inspirational speaker, a lawyer, a life coach, a new thought spiritual teacher. And then he had a therapist on his show as well, Dr. Laura Berman. Her credentials are relationship therapist and TV host. She's an MSW clinical psychologist, clinical therapist like me. She has a doctorate in health education, specializing in human sexuality. The reason why I did this is to compare Dr. Cheyenne Bryant's methods of how she went about talking to both Nick and Cam, I saw that she was on there and she was in her community activist role. That's how she came in. That was all her energy. Now, later, I'm going to try to compare when Dr. Umar Johnson is on something and the energy that he brings and how uncomfortable people get and they don't like to listen to him. You know why? Because he's a Pan-Africanist. And when he speaks with that energy and people disregard the fact that he is a psychologist. Everybody want to disregard everything that he's saying because of the type of energy that he brings in. He is also about community, keeping Black people together and all of that right there. He is a psychologist. Let's remember this. So my whole thing is the method, how she went about it. From the jump, and I'm not going to be by myself. So from the jump, I noticed her energy. When she was on Nick Cannon's show, she kind of her energy was just different. I'm going to try to play these for you. Also her appearance, her dress, right? So if we think that Nick Cannon as well as Cam Newton are all about being players and they lie and they're all of this and that, why did she come on to Cam Newton's show with her breast all out? That's just first off. Women be knowing what they be doing. If you're sitting in front of a man who you think is a womanizer, he's no good, he's all this, why are you showing your breasts? If you are there as a professional. So as a therapist, if I show up with my breasts hanging all out in front of you, how seriously do you think that I am? How serious are you going to take me? Whereas when she was on the Cannon show, she didn't dress like that. Her stuff was closed up. And she had a little bit more professionalism about herself when she was on Nick's show. Is it due to age? I don't know. But their shows are different. Their energy is different. And a lot of people are saying that neither one of them can handle an intelligent lady or woman who's about her business. This whole phrasing of high value, low value, the other thing, that's not even a mental health term. That's something totally made up. So when we get all the high function, low function, high value, low value, that's not a term that you will be used in your therapy session at all. The person who started talking about that was Kevin Samuels. And everybody know how they were acting with Kevin Samuels when he was calling women low value and low, I don't know if he said low function. So that's the energy she came in with. Not one that is of a professional life coach or a marriage and family therapist. So today I'm gonna hash this out with whoever joins the conversation, as well as with my husband's gonna come on. And fellas that are out there watching, I ask that you come and join in and give your 2 cents. But my husband didn't watch the whole episode; he just watched clips with me, but it's enough to gain an opinion about this whole thing. So what's going on, Amir? Oh, the goat. What's going on? Okay, so she said, Davita said, you think she's going to be baby mama number 4. Look, I don't know what she want to be. And I really don't care about how many kids he has. Because whether a dude is low value, low functioning, he could be all of that with 1 kid. So it don't matter. So go ahead. Amir, I'm going to let you start with what you saw, since I already had my mom.
I heard you going off in there. No, it sounds like I don't know, it's a weird discussion. Especially when you start talking about low value, high value, low functioning, high functioning, hybrid, whatever the different terms that she used. although like someone can probably understand the concepts and the way that the concepts were like employed, I don't think she necessarily believes everything she's saying, or maybe understands everything she's saying.
Mhm.
When you, especially when you say high value, first high value, at one point in the conversation was based on like a numerical number, but then it kind of morphed into value monetarily in comparison to the person you with. Then it morphed into value based on your needs, and so it went up and down that throughout that spectrum, and which made the conversation a little weird, because she would change based on the point she was trying to make to Cam
Mhm.
instead of having one consistent definition.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about the energy. We talked about the fact that this was Cam's show and how she came in and she was dominating. So my little note that I have here, I don't know how this what you call it, copyright is gonna work. So I'm gonna try to play some clips.
Don't
So-
sue me. Don't sue me.
So on Cam's show, he gave her a nice introduction, which I believe is from 3.5 minutes to 5. That's when he gave her an introduction. From 5:30 from 5:30 to 5:56 is when he asks his first question, which is, "Where are you from?" It took her all the way, let's see, from 11 minutes to 5:50, 11 minutes, no, 7:38. She answers clearly. She clearly answers and says the city that she's from. And then at 10:57 is when she stopped talking. So from 5:57, that's a whole 5 minutes, from 5:57 to 10:57, to answer a simple question of where are you from? Then she goes, as she's talking and she answers and Cam responds, she's like telling him how important it was for her to say all that extra stuff. So we talked about that. We talked about that is her, how she acted on his show, and that maybe he needed to dominate her. So I'm gonna try to pull it up while you answer on your reflection on that.
Yeah, I mean, my preference is nobody has to dominate anyone, right? And that's unfortunately that's not always the case. But it shows just how much, because I hate canned conversations. But sometimes it shows the value, and I guess preloading your guests with how kind of the script is going to go. If I ask you where are you from, I like all the philosophical stuff, but maybe there's a time and a place to really express that. But in the beginning, right, that's just warming up to the conversation, and then when you take that role, you kind of force the other person to either just let you run wild in the conversation, or you force them to try to control the conversation. And in both of those aspects, right, that makes for just a bad engagement. Yeah, I don't want to tell anyone to behave themselves, but man, that's a tough one, to like withhold yourself from trying to dominate, just to get the conversation back on track.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play a little bit of it, and we'll see how that goes. What's up, Chantel? See ya.
Chantel out there, oh snap, what's up?
Yeah, she says, hey. Okay, so let's unmute.
Dr. Bryant.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I'm intrigued because as I was doing my research, I came to I was like, yo, why doesn't this This is probably the most mysterious,
Also, people didn't show
most
context.
discreet doctor I've ever seen, because she has so much like, yo, who is she? Has such a following, but no Wikipedia. I found that like so hard. I was like, yo, who doesn't have a Wikipedia? So I'm literally trying to find out certain things because I'm trying to go deep. You said, how deep we gonna go? I said, as deep as the ocean floor.
did, yeah.
So that's where I really want to kind of start. Where are you originally from?
I love that. I want to hit on the Wikipedia really quick. I don't have it because years ago my team was like, let's do the Wikipedia.
Okay, so all this, she don't want to address this question. So this was at 6 minutes, right? So I went back. It's not until 5:57 that 7:38 that she actually answered his question. It's cool. So I was frustrated, but then I thought that I needed to stick with it a little bit longer and not be frustrated, because I, as a person who has been told, you want to get information and answers the way that you want to. So because she didn't answer it directly, I was like, let me stick with it and let me see where she's going. She ain't answering the doggone simple question, where she from. Then once I saw how dominating she was, I was like, oh no, right off the jump, you wrong. And I was frustrated because, again, I'm looking at it as myself, but then I'm also looking at it as a therapist. I saw she was not there as a psychologist. She's going into activist mode. Just answer the simple question: where are you from? Not until 10:57 does she answer. That's not cool. So I'm gonna see 10:57. See if I can 10:50. I'm at 10:50. So I want you to see this stuff in real time. Like,
An abandonment can create somebody to be if you're not careful with that.
Okay, Siri, stop the clock. Boom, right there. I just asked a simple question.
Yeah, and I gave you a simple answer.
That was not simple.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lie.
Yeah.
So you're from Los Angeles, California?
I'm from LA.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just nipped in all the other questions you was going to ask all in one.
so when do you do that? When do you try to beat somebody to the punch? Who does that? Politicians do that. Politicians try to beat you to the punch. You are a guest on someone's show. You're in someone's house. They ask you a question. If you're just going to do all the talking yourself, why are they asking you a question? She felt that was a good thing to do. She thought that was right. And that's not. You don't guide someone else's show. So you and I talked about that, and you already responded about not necessarily dominating a person.
Yeah, I didn't know she said that part right there. Her definition of high and low functioning.
You jump into the comment. Let me put that in there.
Oh, I didn't even see the comment. But no,
okay.
I was just gonna yeah. Look at DeVita. Exactly. That you would think part of high functioning or any functioning, right, will be tied to some kind of emotional intelligence. Trying to throw everything out into the conversation and answer everything at once is a form of being passive aggressive. Like I answered everything you're going to answer because I know what you're going to ask me, right? Then there's no conversation. That's how anybody who participates or employ that tactic. That's how arguments. That's how people try to dominate each other. That's how all these sort of aggressive tactics get employed because of that. Although someone can show you all of the questions up front, but going through the process of answering them could trigger something else while they are asking you that, and you can kind of tie it back into some other ideas that you've already presented. This just as she did with Cam, right? He was saying this, right? He led with his intro. That gave her hooks to be able to talk about this, this, and this. But if her response is things shut down, it doesn't really give the other person a chance to continue the conversation. That it's not just a tactic employed by politicians. That's a known tactic employed by people who have agendas. So it's not just politicians, it's people that have agendas. You may see a CEO do it. They may go out there and show you, here's all the questions that you guys answered that you sent me. Here's the answers to these questions. Does anyone else got anything else to add? Right? Because they're not trying to have a conversation, because I'm not trying to open it up to everybody. Right? My agenda is to get information out because HR said I had to. And then say the obligatory, does anyone have anything? Well, it's not, because everybody in the room realizes I've already shut that conversation down. Yeah. I don't want free talk. I want to control how the message is out. She's good at media because she knows these things turn into sound bites. And so she can exploit it later on. Now people are like, oh yeah, that's the way to do it. Yes, that's why we're all dysfunctional, because we're almost behaving as we're doing it for the gram.
Yeah, and so let's not forget, she's a co-producer of an MTV reality show, so she knows what's hot, what's the ticket, what you got to say, and creating drama. I heard on another review where they were talking about Nick and his reactions and how frustrated he got with her. They gave him the exact same energy that they gave to Cam. So I do have here, I think this is Nick's first question when she was on his show, but it's from 2:49 to 7 minutes. That's how long it took. I didn't put fresh share yet. Let's see the slight difference here.
No, absolutely. And the whole black.
Let's go.
No, absolutely.
To the question.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the whole Black Men You Matter is just a slogan, because when you look at politics, even just go back to anyone who's watched any presidential debate, any congressional debate, any local city council mayor debate, there is so much conversation around women and women of color and how to make things safer when we're giving birth, how to make things safer for us health-wise.
So the rest of it is not important. He asked her about Black Men Matter, like what do we do how do we keep that in the forefront about Black men mattering? Okay, that's a very political answer that she gave, and like I said, she goes all the way up into 7 minutes answering this question. When I went back to look at this, not only, of course, am I looking at her attire, her cleavage is closed, but also how she's speaking to Nick. I view this as her kind of pandering to Nick a little bit right then. Because who says that Black Men Matters is just a slogan? Black Fathers Matters is just a slogan. Black Lives Matter is just a slogan, and then go into political spiel. She was setting him up. And see how calm she is? Wasn't like that with Cam.
Yeah, I mean, she's people got to get paid, so I never get mad at anyone who's got their hustle, right? That's the hustle. She's trying to advance an agenda, and I'm not going to say the agenda is good or bad, right? I'm not putting any weight on or value on the agenda itself, right? She is trying to advance it. A lot of people employ this tactic. Mm-hmm. The issue that if I was to have an issue, it's the people that's consuming the media, and not knowing this is what a person is doing. So either one is just not knowledgeable, or on the other extreme, that's their personality. And sometimes when it's the way that you behave, it's hard for you to see that, yo, this is not constructive, especially if you found some success in doing it, right? Even you don't understand the long-term implications, but if you got some kind of short-term success, it's like selling drugs. You're like, yo, you sell your first and you're like, yo, I can keep doing this. But in the reality, no one ever retires from the drug game. And so that's a losing battle. But up front, it seems like it's super successful. And so when people consume it, right? TV is TV. It's just entertainment, right? But it's the consumption without critiquing is probably the problem, because then people start picking sides. Well, she did this, or well, Nick was doing this right here, and we don't really understand the situation, or neither we apply reality to it. Like we'll look at it and go, I can't believe he has all these baby mamas, when in reality a portion of the Black community is exactly that, and there's a lot of people who participate to continue that going forth. But we'll look right at TV and wag our finger, but we wouldn't necessarily wag our finger at the baby daddy or the mama daddy or something, or the family or the community.
Yeah. So let me see. Davita says maybe she was advertising herself for the high value, high functioning men she was talking about. Perhaps. Again, when I looked at it, I thought that maybe I need to stick with it, because the second reason is because I don't answer. I don't give long-winded answers. I don't explain much what I'm saying. So I was like, okay, I think I like that she's giving a little bit more information. She's explaining a little bit more. So she could have been. I just was like, it's a simple question.
But you can participate with your partner, right? If you're having the conversation, right, there's not necessarily anything wrong with her wanting to kind of show the nuance of where you're from. That's not a problem, right? The problem is it was a surprise to Cam, because you didn't tell Cam what you were doing. You decided doing your own thing. And so, you're like, hey, allow me. I like that question. I think it's nuanced. Can I answer in a way that shows the totality of me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then Cam gets to say something. She gets to say something. Then the conversation flows versus hijacking a conversation. That's the part that becomes irritating. It's the hijacking of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We see it every day. We see it with politicians. We see them hijack conversations and they don't actually answer, or they try to be too clever in the way that they answer. He's like, that's not clever at all. And the only person you have fooled is yourself, if you even believe what you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you didn't fool. There's a lot of other people who would just get turned off by the conversation, right? I'm certain a lot of people are like, yes, this validates exactly why I don't like superstars or I don't like media. It's because you see this game over and over. Yeah, there's people who responded, but I imagine there's a lot more people that said, man, the heck with this.
The videos are making more of a conversation than a lecture. I'm not even sure that I saw a lecture though. I don't think I saw that. I just saw her going full force, full on activist mode. Again, like I'm going to say Dr. Umar Johnson. People don't give credit to what he says when he's talking about keeping your relationships Black, when he's on his Garveyite. And people are tuning him out. But it's the same energy. It's the same way that she went about this, because on the Nick one, the question was about Black men mattering. She went on this full rant. Of course, I can't play it all because of copyright, right? But it didn't answer the question. So there's something here that I have marked at 11 minutes, from 11 to 11:37. Let's see what it is. This is her on camera. Oh, okay. Let's get her. So that's enough about Cam's show. There's a lot more comparison that I want to do because, as I said, people gave her all this credit, all these flowers, because they believe that she handed Nick and Cam their behinds. So I want to try to compare and contrast how she spoke versus how these other people spoke when same issues on Nick Cannon's show. Iyanla, life coach, Dr. Berman, a therapist. You don't have to talk the way that she talked in order to make clear what you want to say. But while I find those, Amir, is there anything that you want to say about the professionalism or lack thereof on how she delivered her messages to Cam?
Yeah, I right. I may be super wrong, right? But I'm looking at all of her interviews, how she was answering, and I think the professional piece is you have to work really hard to not be biased, right? And that's tough for anyone. I think the bias that she was showing was definitely pro, which is nothing wrong with it, but she was showing pro woman. She wasn't necessarily. And so every time it was, that's why people are like, oh, she gave Nick, because Nick is the opposing force. Cam is the opposing force because they're the men doing this. And she is saying, hey, women need to project their power. Women need to do this. You're not really, that's a bias. You can't really have a true discussion with somebody because you're saying like Nick is 100% one to you're phrasing it as if he's wrong. Right. That's the first. That's the first part. You're phrasing like he's wrong. You're phrasing it like Cam's wrong. So you're approaching it like they're doing something wrong versus maybe doing something better or understanding totally their particular position. And that means them along with the woman, right? So that's the only way you can have that conversation, because if the woman is, that's a chance to be the mediator or whatever between the two. If the woman's saying, I don't like this particular relationship structure because it seems like he has all the power and I have no power and I'm stuck with the kids, like that. Hey, if the other person is having that discussion, you have to address it, but you don't know if the other side is even mad about it.
Yeah.
Or the other sides. Like it's just a weird way to have the conversation, and it makes you antagonistic towards the other person, which forces people to start to pick sides.
Which was all we saw. So Davida said, I don't know what her movement would be if she's taking an activist approach, honestly. So Amir kind of addressed that already. Pro woman. That's what she was talking about. And I don't know her show that she has on MTV, but she talked about it a little bit on Nick's show. On Cam's show, because she's a teen mom. So this show has something to do with being a teen mom. I don't know. Being unbiased is a skill that takes practice and honesty with yourself. Yes, because I know I come into therapy sessions sometimes. We all have a bias, period. We know that. We all have a bias. But when I'm sitting there with this client in front of me, I have to withhold that bias and that opinion because it's not going to come out right. It's not going to come out helpful at all. Yeah, she seemed to be offended. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it's coming out. And like with the normal person, they can have bias. The where the calculus change is that she is semi acting in her professional. That's why she's on there. She got selected because of her professional credentials. So when she is talking, no matter what, she is always talking in her professional capacity.
Yeah.
And so that is so for one person, it may be a skill. For another person who is a professional, that's a requirement. That's ethics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that it's different, right? Somebody else can just get away with it, be like, yo, I don't like you, right? But if the doctor was like, hey, I don't want to treat black people, well, we have an ethical problem now. And that's something larger than just two people having a disagreement or not necessarily liking each other. Police officers, doctors, firemen, all of those individuals have ethics that's supposed to drive them, and she's letting an agenda drive it.
Yeah.
And that creates biases. You may not like his lifestyle, but if you can't control yourself, then don't go on the show. If you can't have an honest conversation.
Yeah. Because again, even with the activist thing, let's just give her all the credit. She is about pro-family, pro-nuclear family, and nothing else. Dr. Umar Johnson is about the same thing. And he don't agree. But when he is talking to a person, I have not seen this yet. And I've watched him on a lot of things. He doesn't attack that person for themselves or even for their lifestyle. Even he's been on Nick's show as well. He does kind of like I do, go with, well, if one does this and if one does this, or even he goes, well, if I did this. And he may talk about real people, but not the person who is interviewing him. He don't go, you made this bad choice, horrible, horrible, horrible. When he makes his point, he goes an individual, or when my brother is doing this, it's just different. It's very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. So I'm gonna shift a little bit to a little bit of rapport building, because as I showed and as I stated, after Cam Newton gave his introduction to her, who she is, he asks her a question. And she wants to address what she wants to address. But that's not how you build rapport. That's not how you establish this conversation that we are about to take place, because we know that it's going to get hot. So this is Dr. Berman. This is just the little intro, how it went in the beginning. Just to compare and contrast. Okay, so people can see what I'm talking about, like what I see.
And
it sounds like something straight out of a sitcom.
It was even worse than that. I'm going to call you out, because we had had a conversation, you and one of your baby mamas, and she was saying, leading up to Valentine's Day, she was saying, you know, all I want is a personalized card. Like everyone gets the same card and the same flowers.
Same
and
balloons.
so you took that note.
I did.
And then you're
I
like,
thought I
okay.
listened.
Yeah. And so then that mama got the wrong card. You mixed.
So, like a therapy session, she's talking to him. So I accidentally skipped through the intro, but this was good too. Is this not calling Nick out? People might not understand that. So this particular episode right here is all about Valentine's Day. And Nick's issue in this episode is he believes that Valentine's Day is just for women and children. And so this is the context of what he and Dr. Berman are talking about. He made a complaint and all of that. She's calling him on the carpet right now. But people wouldn't really know. So this exchange is until 3:55. Okay. I have an asterisk. Let's see what's happening at minute 8:39.
Because sometimes I don't feel like they're sincere. So then how am I supposed to act sincere off of something that you didn't do sincerely? So then I'm like, I gotta pretend like I like this when you just really just went to CVS to pick
So
this
what
out?
you do is get them flowers with the same card or mix up the cards.
That's not true. That's what I've been told. That's a false narrative.
Okay, so
That's
what's the
fake
real
news.
narrative?
The real thing is I actually put effort into trying to make everyone feel special.
You do. I'm not saying that you don't. I see you doing that, but
Yeah.
on Valentine's Day.
Well, that's I'm gonna blame.
Okay, so like I said, as I watch Nick's shows, I think that he does a lot of giggling and he turns the conversation and he does all this, and that once it gets uncomfortable. So this right here, this is what a therapy session looks like, which is the whole point of Nick's podcast. That's why it's counsel culture. This, she leads him and she lets him kind of figure out what it is that he wants to say, what he's thinking, let him work it out. And she's not telling him what to do. Is she still calling him to the fire about what he does on Valentine's Day? Yeah, she just said it. You buy everybody the same card, and then you ended up mixing up the cards. This is how you do therapy. What did you happen to see from this? And it goes, this part right here goes all the way up until, somewhere, I can't find my note. But she's calling him out.
Yeah, but what I can gather, and she alluded to it because she kind of said it, they had pre-conversations already. So, and there is a theme that's occurring, right? He has already stated what the thesis is. The thesis is, I think that Valentine's Day is X, right? And so she's not dealing with a bunch of stuff. She's kind of dealing with his interaction with his significant others through this day. That's what she's, and I don't know the whole show, but it, right at that particular time, that's how she's in it. She's engaging him.
Yeah.
And so it's limited, right? Versus she's not telling you why she is awesome. She's trying to address what Nick is. Now she's a TV personality as well. She's famous, so she's gonna still put a little bit of flair on it, which I have zero problems. But it's deal with zero problems with that. But deal with it is, don't push your particular agenda unless the show calls for that. If any of them, Shannon, Cam, Nick, say, hey, I have this position, I'm going to bring you on because I want to debate you, then that's a different show. Then you get to push your perspective because that's the debate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem like how old girl was dealing with Cam, that was the actual show.
Yeah, because he asked a few questions, and every time he asked a question, it took her a long time to answer, which is why, like, I barely could write down any times because she dominated the conversation. So I'm gonna go to Iyanla, And I think I stopped it at the right point this time. This is the beginning. This is building rapport, right? This is how you are a guest on someone's show.
You have to ask my son, but I think he might let you.
Yeah, I love that's my mother's mother, right? Is
Yeah.
that what that?
Hold on. That's supposed to be 17 seconds.
Yeah. Can I call you? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to ask my son, but I think he might let you.
Yeah, I love that's my mother's mother, right? Is that what that?
Mother's mother. Yeah.
And so all your grandchildren call
They call me yeah.
That's awesome. Because nobody wants to be called grandma no more.
Really?
My mom is like, don't call her grandma.
Nana.
Yeah, Nanny Beth, Nana, like all of those.
Okay, so all of that goes up to a minute 10. It's just to show building rapport. She's establishing rapport with him because the conversation is going to go a certain way. She also provided education to him also. And he asked, what can he call her? What do you call it? Iyanla, Yaya, whatever. You're establishing rapport. We know that these folks that they already like, they know each other. This is not their first conversation. But when you are displaying this to the masses of people, still, how are you going to behave? She is still establishing rapport with him. And like I said, she provided education on what her name what Iyanla actually means. That it's a title. It's not her name. So you can educate a person and not try to dominate and tear them down. So let's go to
yeah, I wanted to see. Can you pull up are you able to pull up the video with him and the previous doctor?
Dr. Berman?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I see that?
Oh, it didn't show. What do you want me to?
I just need to see a still frame of it. And can I see with old girl, with Dr. Bryant?
I closed her.
I
closed Cheyenne.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Call her old girl again, Dr. Bryant.
I closed her up. Okay, that's on Nick's show.
Yeah, on Nick's show.
I think I know what you're looking at. Okay. Well, you want to see like right here, right there?
Any? I can't see anything yet.
Oh, my bad. You see it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to point out? You want to go right on to that next part, huh? Body language.
Yeah, they all got different postures, and the two pros got different postures.
Yes. That's also what we need to talk about, because her hand is right here. I know I just happened to press pause. I just pressed pause right there. But her demeanor while she was talking to Nick was a whole lot of pointing in his face and a whole lot of this and all of this, and then touching him. I said, hold on, let me finish. And touching him. You shouldn't do that. Because she's trying to pander. She's trying to pander to him. And also, how you call it? Like, you have a term for it when people try to pat you on the head.
Patronize.
Yeah. She's trying to do that. And she did that a lot. And on Cam's show, with all her energy she had, that's why theirs was very combative, because Cam not about to have that. She gave Cam a compliment early on in the show. She complimented him, or no, maybe it was Nick. But one thing she did, she sipped water. She sipped water, particularly on Cam's show. That is a tactic that we're taught, right? Well, in your world, you're taught that, right? That's the pause. I need a moment to pause in politics. That's what you do. Also, that is a coping technique that is taught. When you feel yourself getting overly anxious or excited, you need to take a pause and you need to control yourself. And that's what she did. Exactly. Taking her little sip of water. So Davita said, who's sitting like an auntie though? Who was that? I don't want to assume on who you talking about. Who's sitting like an auntie? So let's go back to Iyanla. Okay, so 121. I'm gonna go up to my note here of 549. I don't remember what this is, but it's there. It's something.
If you're showing it, we can't see it.
See that.
What do you do with that?
We talked about, or you brought up in our last session, inadequacy in a space of even who I am supposed to be. I've done many things. I've been doing this for over 3 decades, and there's been expectations. There's been great achievements.
Okay, so before this, he said something, they were laughing and joking about when he made the comments about the Jews and people came at him and just any other silly thing that he has said. And so what did she do? She turned it. She said, how did you feel? If you are an inspirational coach, a life coach, and all this stuff right here, why are you going to continue attacking the person? No. I'm going to turn this conversation, Nick, and I want to know, what did all of that negative attention make you feel? This is someone who is actually operating in the reason why they're here. This is the capacity in which Iyanla is known for. This is how you do that. Not people just agree. People agree and they believe that that's how Black women are supposed to act. Like, period. Y'all think that Black women are supposed to be doing all of this and then coming at you all hard and nasty. No. If you are a life coach, an inspirational coach, therapist, what are the titles do these people hold? That psychology expert.
Yeah, it's a time and a place. I think I'm not saying she shouldn't have that energy because sometimes that might be the right energy. If that's what the place dictates, right? So if you once you start doing this, and I'm like, what do you want? Because either you want me to bow down, or it's gonna be fight or flight, and so then I'm gonna turn, right, and then it's gonna look lopsided because they're gonna go, the bigger person is trying to dominate the other person. I'm like, no, what you didn't see is the other aggressive acts. And it's like, yo, just, oh man, she's a woman. No, that becomes sexist. Like, what are you talking about? No, like, yo, it's a trap when people start doing that, and they very much understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
She understands what she's doing. And again, those behaviors are then picked up on a show that is used to create drama. That's the TV show she created. And so, and, look, everybody's growing. So maybe, I'm not going to put it to her being absolutely trying to create drama. Sometimes that's how you, again, if you found success in those particular behaviors, it's easy to fall back to those behaviors. Everyone is guilty of that. So I'm gonna show some grace on that one. But those behaviors are solidified when people show up and be liking it. Like, yeah, you did that. You showed them. No, don't do that. Because you're only going to make it harder for that person to actually kind of look at themselves and change. So if someone brings it up, if I say, hey, your behavior is messed up, and she said, oh, for real? Well, I got 5 million views. 5 million people said it's not. And that's hard to get a person to change when they're getting success. Again, we're looking at a potential president of the United States who has been rubber stamped through that same method. Misbehavior is not met with condemnation; it's met with applause. And so, why would I misbehave again if I keep getting all this attention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got some other little timestamps, and then I'm stop with that, but they take my thing off for copyright.
If I get beat up in the streets, I'm blaming it on you.
Look, I think it's a certain amount of seconds and all this, but
the money.
I got something marked here, so let's see what it is. This is 20 minutes in.
Yep.
But I really like pleasing people or attempting to please people.
You do. It's really interesting how you set things up for yourself to fail at what's important to you, or not fail, but to struggle. I don't think you fail, but you definitely struggle, and there's always somebody who's not pleased.
That sucks.
Yeah. But maybe it's about being okay with that, doing your very best, and being able to hold, because of your situation and the reality of it, being able to hold that. Not, they're going to compare, there's going to be disappointment, and you can be okay with that.
So I'm gonna close out one. She just dropped the mic. People probably don't know because of how she delivered it. So I've heard in other reviews that I saw Black women responding to Dr. Bryant on Cam Show. Black women. A Black woman brought this up, and we've talked about this before with the McDonald's dude. The lady was talking about the fact that when a dad is not in all of the households, other kids miss out. And then this creates sibling rivalries between all the kids, because, or particularly when he lives in one household. So the other kids may or may not get jealous. They may or may not get upset. And then they are not claiming their siblings at school because they're upset with how daddy was. She just did the same thing, but she did it like a therapist, letting him know things, Valentine's Day, somebody is not going to be happy. You try so hard, and it's guiding it and letting him take a moment to process what's being said to him and his behavior. That's what I saw. Did you happen to see anything else?
No, she gave him a chance to think about it. I mean, he's a brave man. Having that many relationships that tend to, it's truthful. Somebody's not going to be happy, and you try to limit the reasons why that person would necessarily feel that way, but in reality, somebody's not going to be happy, and that somebody can change day to day. Tomorrow will be the next person. After that, it could be the next person. So, that's reality.
Yeah, her name is Dr. Laura Berman. And yes, she's a therapist. She's a social worker, like me. She's a social worker who specializes, though, in human sexuality. That's what she specializes in. And so she validated his feelings as well. So why would you want to talk to her? Because this is how it goes. You validate somebody's feelings, you lead them to the water and let them evaluate their behaviors and even their statements. She called him out once on this episode where he went back and forth on what he was saying. But you have to let the process happen where the person can evaluate, think, come to their own conclusions. You don't tell people what to think. That's not how this works. So back to Iyanla, and then we just gonna go all in. There's something I have marked here. Like we did not really go in, but so by the way, the title where Iyanla is on is about the deadbeat dad debate. That's what they're talking about on that particular episode. If you wanna watch it,
About you.
About me and many others of just men that, you know, may not be in your traditional relationship. And then the other term that I hear quite a bit is a broken home, creating broken home. I struggle with those things because obviously I don't want to be associated or a part of either one of those. But in asking you, if these terms do apply, I mean, I want to take accountability for them, but I want to know what we feel the definition of those are, and then not only just for myself.
So as we talked about before, everybody has to be operating off of the same definition, so we know what we're talking about. That's what was missing from Dr. Bryant being on Cam's show. And he was trying to tell her that he disagreed with her definition of high value, high intelligence. And all she cared about was her definition. Well, we can't have a conversation when we're working off of two totally different definitions and experiences.
Well, she disregarded
the conversation.
She disregarded his definition and then used it. That was the wild part.
Exactly. So Nick just asked the question because we all got our own terms of deadbeat dad. So he's talking to her. What is your definition
For someone who may not be in your traditional or conventional relationship?
Why did they go backwards?
How can we be the best fathers to our multiple children? Or how do we mend the broken households that we may have created?
I come out of a non-traditional household. My mother was the other woman. My father lived around the corner with his wife.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I started there. I started there because to compare Iyanla telling her story. To answer a question, she's telling a little bit of her story, right? We are 10 minutes into the show versus where Dr. Bryant on Cam's show went all in on her story just off of where are you from. One thing we definitely, as social workers anyway, are taught about transparency and sharing your story. It has to make sense to the client. It has to make sense to the situation. So the way Dr. Bryant opened up on Cam's show, going all in off of one question, where are you from? That was totally misplaced. Now, Iyanla here is sharing her story before she actually defines what a deadbeat dad is, because it makes sense here. A deadbeat dad in a broken home. So she shares and then she gives her definition on what it is. It's all about timing and style. And Dr. Bryant, obviously, she's been doing this longer than me. I heard she's been doing this for like 15 years. But I think she lives in her activist role majority of the time, on the ones that I've seen her. Not as a therapist or a psychology expert. She's coming at these people in her activist mode.
She might be she very well could be a really good doctor. We don't know because she's not sharing that part. Versus we do have samplings of the two other doctors because they are invited on to do exactly that. And so we can go, yep, that's the thing they were invited on. They're doing it. I know that's what they're doing. We don't necessarily have that sampling from Dr. Bryant.
Right. And it's not. So, okay, so as we prepared to wrap up or whatever we decide to do. We didn't talk about the kids. So they both came from households with their fathers not being in the household. It is interesting how triggered Cheyenne was versus how differentiated Iyanla was. Yes, exactly. And so if you want to go look at that whole thing, that is from 13, it's from 8 minutes and 39 up to 11 and 10. And then there's something else at 13:48. So it's all about placement. So the great debate where everybody is talking about. You know, I have wrote this question down, David, and you already answered it. I was like, would you want a therapist behaving like that? And about people probably feel that she's all unapologetically Black and all female, and she coming in as real as it can get. I would like to know if this is really how you want your therapist, your life coach, your whatever to behave when they're talking to you. Like, you talk about the kids if you want to. But when it came down to delivering the message and the information, if it were you, would you be okay with the way that Dr. Bryant was talking to Cam and talking to Nick? That's how we got to look at this. People are upset because they got multiple kids and whatnot. Why y'all in no man's pockets and pants?
I mean, some people like to be coached and driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone comes to the edge. Some people need to be motivated to jump off the edge, right? Got to jump into the river. And you got somebody in there and they're on you and they're motivating you and they're pushing you to jump off, right? Some people like that. Yeah, get me hyped up. It seems like it's increasingly, right? I don't know the statistics, but a lot of people don't like to answer the question, why are they afraid to jump off the ledge?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not exciting, right? Now, that's going to get messy. Now you got to go back in your mind and you got to bring up stuff that you've been holding back. Man, I don't want to talk about that. Versus, man, jump. You got the rest of your life to sit here, go. And you got people pushing you, pumping you. You jump. But what you didn't do is address why you were scared to jump off in the first place. And when you get back to a scenario where you need to jump off again, that thing is going to show back up because you didn't address it. You seem to have different camps, right? And there's courses in betweens and stuff, but there are people I don't want to necessarily improve myself. One, I may not even think anything's wrong with me. So why I got to improve myself? Why I got to do that? Why I got to go get messy for no reason? Just tell me how I can get pumped up, motivate me, and push me. Right? She probably appeals to those individuals because she's bringing that energy versus the being more introspective and kind of breaking it out in your head and figuring out why you are behaving the way you are behaving. I imagine humans should be a mix of both, but definitely people are picking different sides, and maybe that's part of the psychology of why you have some people who's going to go with her and some people who's going to go with the other classical examples.
Yeah. So Gus came on, says an awesome conversation. And I'm sorry, Davida, and anybody else who was watching, I forgot. So I put the link in here in the chat if y'all want to come and log in and come and join the conversation, because it doesn't have to be over. But if you want to join, I put the link in there. So Vita said, I'd be okay with her as a life coach for specific physical goals I have set for myself, but not for a therapist who I have to be vulnerable with to heal mentally because she doesn't. I'm glad you said that. Glad you said that. Okay. So, like I said, I did not see the whole show when she was on camp, but did see enough where she talked about the fact that she said she's healed right now. That's what she said, she's healed. But she talked about your unhealed self attracts other unhealed people, and that's why you have all this trauma and drama, and therefore that's how she's classifying people as low value and low, what's the other one? Functioning, low functioning, because you're not healed. I'm gonna call it out. My opinion, when you still want to act all hood and ghetto like that, she was bringing the hood out. She let it be known that she is from the hood in LA and people were selling drugs. Oh, she was bringing that out because she ain't healed. Because she's triggered. She's triggered by a man who got multiple kids by multiple people. That's triggering for her. And she showed it. So, we got Gus want to come on in. What's up, Gus?
What's up? Is my mic working? I don't even know how to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yo, you know I'm always like in the parking lot at some basketball practice or something waiting to pick up my kids. So that's where I'm at if I look like I'm doing something nefarious.
Being a deadbeat dad, not being there present for your kids.
Yes,
Hey, I
right.
believe you're doing something nefarious. So don't try to talk your way out of it.
No, I'm at the high school, man. I got to get my calendar together so I can start coming getting in these conversations with you guys, because I saw the pop-up when I drove out here, and then I finally looked at my phone, and man, y'all in there getting it in, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks. So what come on, chime in, Gus. What you
No, my thoughts, just listening to you two for like the past 10, 15 minutes was it starts at expectations, and most people's expectations are grounded in their conditioning, what they were conditioned to believe, and most of us believe everything that we're taught as kids, and we never challenge that. So I mean, I live a traditional lifestyle. I got one wife. I don't want more because I can't afford more than one. But I am telling you that everything that we were taught is not right, and we can't tell other people that we're wrong, that they're wrong for doing what they think that they're doing. And these therapists, I think they got to be really, really careful when they approach situations with their cultural conditioning and the things that they think are right, because there's more than one way to live life. And in terms of taking care of your kids and being there for them, I don't like the term deadbeat. And some situations like with Cam and Nick, I mean, I would go more towards decentralized, because you may not live in the same house, but we live on the same earth, and it's all about effort. And if they're taking an effort to be in those kids' lives, then and they're contributing to their welfare financially and emotionally and mentally, then who are we to knock them? Just to be the devil's advocate.
I agree. So, have you seen any of the reviews and responses to the conversation, Gus?
Yeah, I see a lot of people, in the amen corner. But I hate to use the term woke, because people have made it negative. But there are a lot of people who need to, open their aperture to different ways and different views, because it's all about, evolving as you walk through life and challenging what you were taught and comparing that to what you understand as you grow older.
Yeah. I mean, if you put it in reality, right? If you go back 400 years, the core family was a man, a woman.
Somebody need to mute their phone.
You stop sending messages. A man, a woman, and kids, right? It was a very nuclear family, right? Those same individuals owned slaves. And so just because you believe you're doing it a certain way, that don't mean that you're necessarily it's working out. You still could be attributing harm. Right, you can still be passing on bad things, and so it's much deeper than just saying I have my dad in the home, I have my mom in the home, right? There is a host of other things that come along with it, and I think we forget about it. Community matters. So it's not just simply having them, it's having your aunties, your uncles, all of these individuals. Those have been proven to produce quality kids too. And so there's more to it, right? There's different aspects, and they didn't that's my issue. They didn't explore. They were prescribing instead of actually understanding what the situation is. Using the word that Gus said, deadbeat dad. You put somebody into a corner right there, they're going to become defensive. I know a lot of dads who are in the house, they ain't doing nothing, right? But they check all the boxes of being a good dad, right? They may show up at an event, right? But those jokers they don't know what's going on. They can't tell you the position of the team, with the player, what they doing. Right. There's a lot of people who have been dropping their kids off at soccer practice who still don't know anything about soccer. And it's been like 20 years later.
Yeah, man, and you got to think about the culture that most of us come from, man. Because I hear a lot of people. Let's say, for instance, you walking down the street and then you find $100 bill. They'll be like, "Thank you, Jesus. It's a blessing," And but you could go into a store and somebody can tell you something that you never knew before. But we don't treat knowledge as blessings. We treat monetary value, money, currency as blessings. A lot in our community. And I think the term deadbeat is usually attributed to what you expect and what you're not getting. And most people, put so much value on the dollar and not the lesson. And there are too many people out there within our community that will readily take your money, will refuse your advice. And I can say honestly that I did not get a lot of money from my dad when I was growing up, but I got a lot of time and I got a lot of lessons from him. And you have got to put value on that also.
Gonna bring in Davita. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
So before you make your point, if you don't forget, Gus, let's see, look, now I forget. I forgot now. It has something to do with the fathers being in the house. Go ahead, Davita.
No, I was just gonna say basically what I took away from when I did watch Dr. Cheyenne on both Cam, and I didn't watch the full interview because I realized after the fact there is a whole lot more to the Nick interview. But I caught the end of it. It was already a video. So basically what I think Cheyenne was saying about the high value versus high functioning, I did agree that there's a difference. I think that you can have a high functioning, low value, and a high value man who's also high functioning. But I did think that what she was saying, she wasn't really displaying. Like when it comes to the communication, the the emotional intelligence, I thought what she was saying was pretty accurate, but it just didn't attribute to herself. So I kind of took away what she was saying, like the things that I agreed with, but I didn't think that made her a high functioning woman just because she brought these ideas out.
Or high value. Right?
Yeah.
When someone says high value, I go, what are you talking about? And me and Tawanda talked about this. If the global economy collapsed, right, and you walked around with gold bricks in your hand, those gold bricks are worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so value is based on the need as well. Right. And so if you are useful to the other person, right? So what she was describing, she said, this man met these needs, but I wouldn't consider him high value. He met your needs. So how are you not considering that that's value? If he's
it's also very subjective.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be subjective. It's value is rooted in Latin. Like the only reason it becomes subjective is because we decide to put a new meaning on it. But words come from something, right? Use another word. Maybe that's just not the word that she should be using. But words have it's etymology. They
Yeah,
come from something.
you knocking them out, Amir. What? Hey, it might take people a few weeks to pick up them jewels you dropping right now, but this is stuff I talk about all the time, man. Because we've been conditioned to use our currency as power,
Yeah.
you know, and nobody knows how to hunt, nobody knows how to fish, but everybody know how to go to Food Line and Walmart, you know. But the minute those things collapse, then that guy with all the dollars is no longer valuable, and that kid who knows how to string up some weights to a fishing line and feed you like on Survivor, that's the valuable person at that point. So it's all subjective, just like we said, but we really have to pay attention to what's going on and what we're conditioned to think nowadays, and think on our toes rather than just going with the flow.
Can't eat money. I mean, you can't. That's the fastest thing, right? In Nigeria, or some spots in Africa, I can have I had a stack of money in my pocket, right? And I can make it rain. So people on TV, on the internet, like that, man, that boy balling. That was like $38. But it was the inflation is crazy. And the value is, it's wildly. So you can have all of this, and it means nothing. And every time the society keeps showing itself, the thing that we think is valuable ends up not being that valuable. And the same thing that people have put value on for centuries keeps popping up. If you have superior knowledge, you can win the day.
Yep. So
It's
one of my favorite movies is The Book of Man. Oh no, The Book of Eli. I'm sorry, The Book of Eli. Man, that's a great movie that points out what's really valuable when it comes down to it. You know, just simple things like sanitizer and batteries. You know, because we become reliant on power. Man, we gotta be thankful every day. But until you've been divested of everything that makes you comfortable, you'll never realize it.
Yeah. So I remember when you were talking about the community and how you were raised and stuff. So, I had to finish watching my boy Tyrese today. And Shannon Sharp, his show, again, that's a whole different vibe as well. And Tyrese, like I posted, Tyrese dominated the conversation. Like he talked the whole time. Ever. He mentioned the fact of what you see when you grow up, what it is that you know, that's all you know. So of course he talked about his divorce, right? And he was so devastated. We all know that because he's been completely transparent and vulnerable on Twitter and Instagram and all of that. But he talked about what marriage is supposed to be, at least according to his understanding, why he was so devastated about the divorce. And it wasn't the divorce itself. It was what he understood of marriage to be. And that as a man, he gave his all to this particular woman, giving up the life of a player. Because he was like, in the society, men are okay with being hoes, and that women call each other a hoe. A man ain't got to do that for them. So I think that as you talk about our culture, I think like Tyrese hit that stuff on the head. Like he called it out, pure and simple. So y'all have a response to that?
Now I listened to that because I had to drive to Savannah over the Memorial Day holiday. Was it Labor Day? I forget. I get them all mixed up last weekend. But I had to drive there, so I listened to the whole thing for about 2 hours just to keep me awake. I think Tyrese was very on point with a lot that he had to say. I know he was trying to sell his new album and the movie, which I'm always going to patronize black folks, so I'm getting them both. But at the end of the day, I think he had a couple things that stood out to me. The
Yeah, I'm
the
coming.
thing about resilience in your marriage, because you know, one thing that none of us ever does, and I've said this before, we
Speedy
post
one.
our highlights on social media, but we don't talk about the ups and downs and the hard times. And one of our classmates had a very poignant post earlier today. I think it's Deanna. She said that uh, the worst thing you can do is not put people in their place the first time they screw up. And I think that's extremely important in a marriage, because you know, the first time somebody does something that you don't like, if you don't address it and set a precedent, that's what you're going to have to live with. And you know, me and my wife, we've been married 26 years now, and I will tell you that nothing is perfect. We've had our ups and we've had our downs, but I think we respect each other, because we don't mince words when it comes to saying what we like and what we dislike. And I think that Tyrese and his wife, the one that you know, he's separated from or divorced from right now, potentially didn't have the right conversations early on. We use the term equally yoked in many ways, but I think it's being on the same sheet of music. And I think he was probably on a sheet of music that she wasn't on, and she wasn't with it. You know, but I think if people can establish that understanding early on, they can save themselves from them kinds of problems. But a lot of things he said I was all about, like especially the part about the family that you create is more important than the one you come from, and being able to think beyond what you were taught. And I think that's so powerful, not only for the Black community, but for America at large, because so many people are still teaching hatred in their households, but rarely do you have an individual that challenges what they were taught as a child. So I thought it was a great interview, and Shannon Sharp was very gracious, and like you said, allowing him to dominate the conversation.
Yeah. You got a response to Vito?
I was gonna just comment on the whole having a household with two parents being something that's like desired and the ideal versus a single parent household, and how we basically just view that if it's a two parent household and it's successful, that's the goal. And if it's a single parent household, then something's wrong. And it's really like the quality of the parenting. It doesn't matter if it's two parents or one. It's really about what the parents are doing, because like from experience, you know, I've seen households with one parent that was a lot more peaceful, a lot more like I've growing up, you know, with my parents, they were in and out of their marriage, being in the same house and being separated. But when, you know, our dad was out of the house, me and my mom, like, we were at peace. It was all good. And then once he came back is when all the drama would happen, when all the fights would happen. And I preferred sometimes him being out of the house. So as the child, the product of, you know, the broken home, I think sometimes it's better to have a quote unquote broken home for you to be a whole person, rather than to grow up in a what they would consider like a whole family, like a whole household, and then grow up with all these different, you know, issues that of course still come with being in a single parent household. But it's kind of like you have to choose what's the most important thing for you and your family internally, because what the outside looks like isn't as important. It's just optics. That's
You
it.
look for a person?
Yeah, you know, I'm all about family. I mean, Gus knows like half my family. I was, you know, I nerd out just a little bit on it. When we're developing software, right? As a person who develops the software, there's one thing, there's a principle that we try to get people to understand. And a lot of people do not understand this. There is no such thing as complete software. It doesn't exist. And so when we're raising kids, that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to give them as much software as possible. But there is a lot of societal pressure, pressure to tell you that whatever you got from your family, that's it. It's not. There's a continuation. You have to keep upgrading and patching and all of that stuff for the life of the software. That never stops. So if you get to a point where you think you have done it, then that's wrong. And we try to teach that principle so people will stop thinking, I did this, so I'm good to go. You're not. And so we want to try to encourage people to do more. I would challenge everybody. Your mom and dad can't give you everything. Your mom, your dad, your cousin can't give you everything. Your mom, your dad, your cousin, your grandma, they can't give you everything, right? There's a bit of a continuation that has to go on from that, but one gets locked into ideas, and that's how we kind of get into this idea of like a broken home. That's not the end of you. Now we want you to start off well, but that's not the end of you. Just because you didn't get everything that you necessarily would need up front. Things may be a little bit more challenging for you, but we have to get it out of people's minds that they're a finished product.
Yeah, man, that's extremely powerful what you're saying. I remember one of the hardest jobs I had when I was in the military was as an instructor and course writer. And I was like, what do I give these students? And it led me back to the automobile. And, I started to ask myself, okay, can I drive a car? Well, can I drive his car, that car, or this car? And confidently I could say, yes, I could probably get in any car and drive it. Well, that's what you want to teach people, because you never know what life is going to throw at you. You never know what curves are going to be in the road. And if we go back to Tyrese's interview with Shannon Sharp, we cannot gloss over the fact that he spoke about the teacher, that heard about the audition and did what he could to get him there on time. And you've heard the phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child," and I think that's something that we oftentimes miss. We talk about broken homes. We gotta, I say it again, widen our aperture, because the community that we live in, the earth that we live in and live on, is our home, and there are more people here that you can learn from other than those that live directly with you, if you will widen your aperture and open your eyes to the good ones, because everybody's not a good person, but there are people out there that you can learn something from. And these people, that we're talking to Cam Newton, to Nick Cannon, I'm not saying that I would subscribe to that lifestyle, but there's an opportunity for multiple households to benefit from two very successful individuals. And if you think about the good that can come from that, rather than, the folks from where I come from, who, in my opinion, I hate to say it, but I already thought it, so I'm already going to hell for it. Some people shouldn't even have kids at all, because they're just not confident enough to be teaching other people how to make it in life.
I started laughing, so I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, Sawana?
It was something about Tyrese in the. Okay, so people, like I said, people are all up in Cam and Nick's pockets and penis and pants. When you talk about earlier, so both of them, Cam and Nick, have both stated that they're looking for legacy and whatever else. Let me just use the word legacy, because Cam used a different word. Then when Iyanla was talking to Nick, she said, it was after that part where she said, how do you feel? After that, it was, what if you are a reincarnated king, right? and you had some unfinished business. Whether the two of those men had one child or the 8 and 12 that they have, we're not there every day. But if they are focusing on legacy and they're trying to live, through their kids, and they are taking care of them, and whatever the case may be, who really are we to judge? Like, we're not in their lineage. We're not getting none of their goals and riches unless one of our kids marries into their family. There was another point that I had, but I lost it. So I'm going to stay right there and see if that takes y'all somewhere.
Yeah, I told you about the Nigerians. Some of them, especially the Islamic Nigerian, they come from, many of the immigrants come from large families. Not all of them. It's not always that way. But a lot of them do come from very large families where the dad has a lot of kids, sometimes multiple wives. And not just Nigeria, it's several parts of Africa. And guess what? One of the most successful groups of immigrants that come into the country are Nigerians. So one will have to step back and go, are they doing something that is producing success? What is that thing that they're doing? Right? Before we shut it down and go, oh, I don't like this particular lifestyle. That was conditioned into us deliberately by certain groups of people. We sometimes need to step back and go, is it beneficial? But it's more to that, right? It's a lot more to that, to understanding the complexity of a man and a wife, right? There is a lot. If you do have a lot of kids, one of the things, if you are coming from a traditional culture that's outside the United States, you still got to take care of those kids. That's part of it. It's just not simply having a bunch of kids. And I think that's what people hear. Man have a lot of sex, a lot of women have a bunch of kids, but there's a lot more. You are responsible to those individuals. Those individuals have other responsibilities for themselves. And so it's more that we need to understand about particular lifestyles before we necessarily shut it down. If there's something beneficial about it, we should perk up and try to understand what that is.
I wanted to comment on what you said, Tawana, about the legacy. So, like with what Amir just said about the Nigerians being like, that's a part of their lifestyle and they're successful. But if you think about it, it's kind of a part of, Black American lifestyle to have multiple women, multiple kids, but it's become kind of like a downfall in our community. But I think it's the way that it's taught, the value placed on it. I think that when it comes to just like the practice of it, where we have such like a negative outlook on it, that when it happens, we're not thinking like how we can make the best of it, how we can build from it. We're just automatically like, oh, we messed up. This is bad. This is the wrong thing. And we're in that mindset. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilled prophecy. And then what you said about, I'm forgetting it right now as I'm talking, but there was something that, the legacy. What I thought about was, what does that really mean? Because in my mind, your child is your legacy. So once you have a child, if they go on to live and become a part of society, then you live on through them because they're alive. So then it's, what's more important to leave for them, to live the life that you would be like proud of, or you would be just happy that they're living? Would that be through the material things the, you know, having them set up financially, or would that be more so through the things that you've taught them about just themselves, your family, your, like, their history? Like, what should the value be placed on the most? Like, that's just what I was wondering when you were talking about it. Like, what's the best legacy? Like, what's the best thing to leave for your children?
Yeah. I don't have an answer for that one.
I would say something because I think we need to explore it more. Thinking about what they're saying from Nick's point, right? Nick talked about what's kind of driving his ideas, right? And some of it is rooted in African culture, right? So he is talking about that. When you say legacy from that standpoint, that is more than children, right? That legacy is, you're talking about culture as well. So it's, if you can have more kids, if the whole community has more kids, and we are all teaching them something similar, right? The culture is also propagated, not just simply you had kids. And part of our understanding in the United States is it has been distorted. Why? So the African culture, they're not leaving they're in the lives of their kids, right? They're just not a one man, one wife, one child, right? It's one man, multiple wives, multiple children, right? So there's still a structure, and that structure is deliberate, and that structure is created through transactions within the community. I would like to marry this woman. I need to go and talk to her tribe. I need to go talk to her family. I need to meet a lot of people, and a lot of people have to come to a consensus on this. So there's a lot more structure in it. How we are in the United States is they are making a choice to be that way. A lot of our single home families are not say due to our own choice. Some people are forced to be in single home families through a host of reasons. Uh, arrest them, right? That was a deliberate thing within the United States, was to crack the black community, not just the black family. So men were essential to it. So they started arresting men. Women were essential to it. And so they tried to deprive women from being able to have kids. And so the reasons why our stuff may look similar, but that's an anomaly. They're not actually similar, because it's the reasons behind why these systems look the way that they look. And so when we think about, we should be thinking long term. What does it mean? And so whatever lifestyle you choose for yourself and for your children, right? It's that not just going to be healthy for them, but how does that help them flourish in the world that they're going to be living in? Are you going to force them to withdraw from the world? Are you going to force them to be able to adapt to the world that they're in? Right? That's what we should be thinking of. And that's the reason behind, like, there's a lot more to the Nigerian story, to the Sudanese story of what they're doing for the children. They're getting a lot more grounding than what we may be getting here in the United States.
Okay, so this is the longest live I've ever done, I believe.
140.
Or the second longest. And my daughter won't leave me alone. She texts me. So I guess we have to find a place to wrap up. I'll just go first, and then y'all can get the final word. I was going to say that I wanted to do the review because like I said, I was frustrated and I could not watch the whole thing for Dr. Bryant on Cam show. I an hour and a half or so, and I was done. I just couldn't. I did not like her demeanor, her language, her attire. I didn't like any of it. And to attack, I felt she was attacking that man for how many kids he got when you already started the conversation dominating it off of a simple question. She spoke for 5 minutes versus other people in the profession that she is from. Other life coaches. I haven't had to use the famous people who were actually on these shows. You know, the average person like me, we're not gonna be like that. But the famous Iyanla Van Zandt and Dr. Berman, this is not how they move and operated, and that's not how Dr. Umar Johnson operates either. Even when he's full Garveyite mode, he's still a psychologist, and he's gonna sit back, respond to what you said, and still make his point. So that's why I wanted to do the review, and I don't agree with giving a crap about how many kids Nick or Cam had, because I think they're none of my business. Especially when we know they got money and we know they're taking care of them kids, because those women knew that they had these other kids by these other women. So I'll let you two go next. Whichever wants to go first.
Well, as someone who is not a psychologist, haven't studied it, I just listened to it because it's very interesting to me. I feel like the goal that, like, what I think the goal of therapy is to kind of help people where they are to move forward. So even if, you know, if someone has a lot of kids, even if they had a problem like taking care of all their kids, your goal as a therapist isn't to tell them how wrong they are and, you know, how detrimental this is for their children. It's really just to help them get to a place where they can have a healthy relationship with their children, or a healthy relationship within themselves, so that they can move forward from it. So that's, I feel like, why I wouldn't want her as my therapist, because I feel like we'd just be stuck at my problem rather than moving forward and learning how to truly avoid the problem. And yeah, I thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't think that she handed them their behinds, and she was right and all of that.
So I don't think that I didn't see it like that. I saw that, so in the Cam, I thought that she handled that differently. I don't know the reason why, but I feel like she was more considerate of how she would come across to him, like the things that she was saying, because like you said, she was complimenting him more. She seemed to kind of back down a little bit more than once she talked to Nick. It was a little bit more just aggressive, she just kept going in on like whatever he would disagree with, instead of being like how she did with Cam, like, you know, I'm not trying to say this, I'm just, you know, you're still doing this good, and like she was just like, no, you're wrong, this is what I'm telling you, this is a fact because I said it. And I was like a little like, why are you coming so hard at him? But I did think it was just interesting watching the different reactions. So Cam, I feel like he was able to kind of just like move forward, move along without it being too much of like a discomfort. I think that he's kind of used to possibly just like navigating people coming at him. And like you said, with Nick, it seems like when he's uncomfortable, he kind of tries to like make it a joke and, you know, like kind of just change the subject a little bit. And I think watching him with her, he wasn't able to do that. So I felt like this could actually be something for him where it was like he was placed in a new like situation, a different situation for him. So it was a chance for him to grow and to learn about himself. But I don't think that was really her goal. I think that she wanted to kind of just make him uncomfortable, prove that, you know, she knows what she's saying. But I think that it could have been, you know, I try to look for the positive in it. So I think that could have been something for him to see, like, how can I navigate when someone is just constantly going, you know? So that's what I thought. I don't know if she really, like, I wouldn't say she did like put him in his place or anything like that. I think she just made him really uncomfortable.
Okay. In the mirror, you go ahead and take it home.
I feel like she was put on the show. She understands media, right? She's a lot smarter than us. So is she gonna dress a certain way? She's a lifestyle coach. So she knew what type of, she would know. She has the ability to know, if I wear this, how can I offset an individual, right? It's no different if I decide to wear a red tie or certain things, right? If I'm using power, I can create a scenario. So she created a different, she showed up for a different interaction. So I see if she was dressed the way she was dressed with Nick and behaved that way with Cam, but she was dressed two totally different ways. And for someone who understands media, there's no way she made that mistake. That was something deliberate. And so she put on a show. So I'm not going to question if she's actually good. She may be one of the best therapists in the country. But she also has an alter ego. And I think we saw her alter ego. And that's the one that helps get clicks and views. And that's the one that we got to see. And the same thing for Nick. Nick, I thought he withdrew. Nick has the capacity to respond to people under pressure. He has a whole show about it. And while the Nows, they do battle rap. Nick is actually a battle rapper. I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying he is one. And people come at him and people say some wild stuff. They always talk about Mariah Carey to Nick, and they clown him about that. And he's able to respond. And so he also is a media personality. And he knows that there is certain things he can't respond the way that he could, right? Because they're going to paint him as a bad guy, right? And he is trying to rehabilitate his image a little bit too, because he had the whole slip up with the Jews. And so he's not a dumb individual as well. So what we got to see was alter egos of people, right? And so I don't really go, that's them. I go, they were putting on the show. And some of the show was a bit irritating because you can see how staged, I guess, parts of it was.
Okay. Well, with that, we almost made it to 2 hours.
What I send the bill to?
Huh? Send the bill.
Yeah.
Your kids is the bill. It's my payment, rather. We got one dude out here with 12 kids and one with 8 and 4, and hey,
you can't pay me with legacy.
I paid you with 4 times labor.
Not paying me with that. We just talked about that. I thought we said about the gold brick. I want my gold bricks right now. If I can spend them now, I want them right now.
All right. Well, thank you, Gus, for coming in and joining. Thank you, Davita, for coming on. And anybody who watches this later on, like, the conversation at the end, we're gonna come back because I talked about urban trauma. Me and Amir talked about urban trauma. And if you watch Tyrese's interview, this is exactly what he was talking about as well. It's urban trauma. So
see some wild stuff in the hood.
To be continued on Black issues. All right, so with that, play this outro.
I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I would like to thank my guests for joining me, or simply thank you for watching the pre-recorded episode. No matter what your birth order is, how you self-identify, and whether you like pancakes or waffles. If this is the first time you're hearing it today, I want you to know that you are loved. You were put here for a purpose that only you can fulfill. Until next time, take care of yourself. Be sure that you like and share the videos, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notifications bell. This is RealRam out.